Greetings, everyone. I am Kwami Abdul-Bey. I am the co-convenor, one of the co-conveners of the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement. I just want to apologize to everyone. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, and because of those technical difficulties, the OV platform is not working the way we want it to. So the good thing is that Sister Angela Muhammad sent me a DVD that I purchased, and I received it yesterday. So we're just going to play the DVD, and we're going to share a screen, and we're going to play it in here in Zoom for people to watch. And then we have a couple of people that wanted to be a part of the panel discussion. So they're going to be, they're going to log on. Hopefully, I see we have someone that just logged on. Let's go ahead and promote them right now. But before we get started, I just want to say that I really thank you, Sister Angela Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum for you and your husband, Brother Anthony. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing fine, sir. Yourself?
Doing well. All praises due. This film, in my humble opinion, is probably one of the most important films that could have been released and made and screened this year, with this being the 25th anniversary of what I personally believe is one of the greatest events that ever happened in the United States, the Million Man March, where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan brought well over 2 million brothers into one city. And I learned a lot about that day watching the DVD, particularly that I did not know that President Bill Clinton and Congress was so scared that they left town.
Right, absolutely.
Because I remember I was there and it was really quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
the whole U.S.
I
government.
didn't know that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you guys the floor to kind of do an introduction of the film. Let us know what it's about, what the motivation was, and then we get into the film. And then after the film, we can have our discussion.
Sure. My name is Brother Anthony Muhammad, and my wife Angela Muhammad. We're part of a group called the Ministry of Arts and Culture here in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And just to give you a little background, I'll let my wife discuss, the inspiration for the actual documentary. But I'll give you some background leading up to that point. Of course, the Million Man March was in October 16th, 1995. And we're both active members of the Nation of Islam. So during that time, we were both working on behalf of the Million Man March. So we both worked at the Million Man March headquarters on Kennedy Street, Northwest DC. And that was in 95. But of course, in 2000, we had the Million Family March. And then in 2005, we had the Millions More movement. And then 2020, it was Justice or Else gathering. So at the Million Family March, a national agenda was presented. And that national agenda is still available and it still applies to because people ask, what came out of the march and all that. But the national agenda was an actual program, a book that was produced as part of the Million Man March as the official agenda coming out of it. Mm-hmm. And the agenda was to establish 9 ministries that would mirror the agencies of the federal government, because the federal government has the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Defense, the Department of Education. Well, the 9 ministries mirror those things because we told the people that through Ms. Farrakhan stated that the federal government had failed in all of its agencies in helping the people and supporting the people. So we decided that we needed to form some ministries to support ourselves. So one of those ministries out of the 9 is called the Ministry of Arts and Culture. So after that announcement was made, a group of us came together to be a part of the Ministry of Arts and Culture in DC. Along with that, my wife has her own film production company called Vanguard Television. So we did a collaboration with the Ministry of Arts and Culture and her film company to produce the documentary. So I let my wife take it from there as to how the documentary actually was inspired to happen.
Okay.
Again, I'm Sister Angela Muhammad. I want to thank you for showing the documentary and having us be a part of your program. Very honored. And like my husband said, we are part of the DC Ministry of Arts and Culture, and we work with another couple who are artists. And so the wife, Sister Letitia, a friend of ours, she came to me with the idea. This was around the time we were getting ready to commemorate the 15th year anniversary of the Millionaire March, which was in 2010. And she came to me with the idea of doing a documentary to commemorate the 15th year anniversary, right? And so I thought that was a great idea. I thought, yeah, you know, we hadn't seen a documentary on the Millionaire March, especially from the Nation of Islam's point of view. So I thought that would be great. So we started with the pre-production, started doing interviews. We were able to interview Dr. Alim Muhammad, who at that time was one of Minister Farrakhan's doctors, you know, that he worked with. So we interviewed him, and he said, you know, this is so much bigger than 15 years. He said, there are so many other untold stories. And so then we were like, oh, okay, well, you know, we could just call it the Millionaire March, the Untold Story. And that was just a working title. We were thinking that we'll probably change it to something else, but the name just kind of stuck, you know, so that's how it became the Millionaire March, the Untold Story. And, you know, God blessed us to interview people who actively worked with planning the march, who just attended the march, and those who were changed because of the march. So we interviewed all kinds of people. It was very inspirational, very exciting. It was a lot of hard work, but we were glad that we were able to do it. And here we are 25 years later, and we have Millionaire March, the Untold Story.
Yes, indeed. And that's a wonderful introduction. Well, we'll go ahead and get into watching the film. The film is 1 hour and 17 minutes. And after the film is over, we will have our panel discussion. Let me make sure I know how to do this. Let's see, share screen. All right, we are back and we're going to get into our discussion. I'm going to start the discussion. First of all, I put out an open call for anybody that wanted to participate in our panel discussion to just go ahead and log in to participate. Right now, I am showing that we have 4 people that, three people that answered that call. Brother Anthony Muhammad, go ahead and turn your camera and your mic on. Brother George X, go ahead and turn your camera and your mic on. And is this Sister Anastasia? Go ahead and turn your camera and your mic on. And of course, we have the director of this awesome film, Sister Angela Muhammad, and her husband, Brother Anthony Muhammad, who I have a stinking suspicion that you are Anthony Antone Muhammad at the end, correct?
Atone, yes, sir.
Atone, excuse me. Yeah, I thought that voice sounded familiar. And speaking of that, you know, at the last person you had speaking was Nonchalant. And I was one of those people that received her cassette tape
Wow.
at the Millionaire March, and I still have it.
Wow.
Wow.
5 o'clock in the morning. What's it going to be?
That's impressive. Yeah, that's incredible. That's an untold story right there. That's one untold.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
All right, so tonight we're just going to have a discussion on the Million Man March 25 years later. What happened 25 years ago and what can we do about it now? I would like to go ahead and give Sister Angela and Brother Anthony an opportunity to start this discussion. And we have a couple of people that just want to talk about their journeys. I know Brother Anthony Seven Muhammad, he and his son went to the Million Man March together. And as soon as he turns his mic and his camera on, I think they want to talk about that journey that they had. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brother Anthony, and you, Sister Angela. Tell us about what we just saw.
Well, if you have the DVD in your possession, and I'll encourage anyone who wants the collector's item of the DVD to visit VanguardTVN.com and order their copy. But in that, you have an insert inside of in the box. There's one side is the pledge.
Yes, I remember this pledge.
Right, and then the other side is the audit that we spoke of in the documentary.
Yes,
a summary of the audit. It shows that this was something that was done, that we paid for, the people paid for, and the pledge is something to show why or what the purpose of us being there was in the first place. The pledge was for us to look at, like the minister said, look at the cause as bigger than ourselves, and to come to that cause, forget our petty differences, forget our, the things that divide us, but really focus on what can unite us. And then let's move in that direction. So I think now, looking at this thing 25 years later, we have to start thinking about doing something for ourselves collectively. And the only way we can do that is for us to unite, come together in unity, and then think about, what does that look like? We saw like 25 years ago when we filled up the mall, and we saw the reaction to those who didn't like what we were doing. They got out of town, they left, they got away from us.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sign. We're gonna have to get away from that type of negative power and influence permanently and unite with us and each other permanently and start looking at an area where we can physically separate from those that don't care about us and are against our rise. Because we have everything we need amongst the Black community. We have everything we need in the way of commerce, in the way of government, and everything that civilized society needs. We have the talent. All we got to do is unify and say, let's just do something for ourselves. And there's already an example out there where I think there was some families that came together in Georgia, and they bought some land and a whole new town that we can call our own. I mean, that's really the direction we need to go as a people, to start thinking about separation and unifying amongst each other, so that we can get away from the George Floyds, that type of activity, all of the ones that try to kill us and all that. We don't need to deal with any of that if we unify and separate and be amongst our own.
Yes, just being in DC on October 16th, 1995, you got an opportunity to really feel the thickness in the air of unity, of brotherly love, of support, of humbleness. Even in the DVD, in the movie, they were talking about the importance of people that were participating, not even saying negative things to each other. And I remember that I experienced that, and it was such a beautiful thing to be just walking, and every single person that you come in contact with is greeting you with a smile, is greeting you with a hug, is telling you that they love you. And it was, man, it was
You're right.
it was really a powerful experience that I'm getting chills right now, and I'm transporting back there because I spent most of that day in tears.
Yeah, and we
I
call
spent most of that day in tears.
that a glimpse of heaven.
Yes,
If
a
heaven
glimpse
could
of
be,
heaven.
if heaven could be, put in a way in a physical reality, like, 'cause like you, I was in tears myself, and I have that same kind of feeling when I think back on it. We've seen this documentary countless times, but we get a chance to watch it, we get excited. Even though we were blessed to produce it, we get excited to watch it all over again because it just brings all of that, what you just said, right back to us again.
Well, you mentioned the idea of the people who were against us and against what we were doing. Anastasia, go ahead and let's bring you in right quick because I just saw a chat. Go ahead and because you said you definitely wanted to say something.
Yes.
Please.
Well, actually, I wrote down a lot. My first question is, did rapping increase the jail population with our Black brothers and sisters in our community because of the influence, the bad influence that they had on us?
You said did hip hop, was that what increased the jail population? Okay. It was mentioned. Yeah, she did use the word rapping.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I can answer that. I mean, the reason why I'm called A-Tone hip hop historian, I'm A-Tone the hip hop historian is what they call me in the hip hop world, right? That's a very good question. The minister talked about how groups like Public Enemy, and you had others like KRS-One and Eric B. and Rakim and Brand Nubian and the Poor Righteous Teachers, they introduced edutainment through the music.
Yes.
We were doing hip hop music in the community first, but when record companies got involved, they saw the opportunity to make music off of what our culture was about, which was positivity. It was about entertainment. It was about the good things in life. They weren't thinking about the effect of edutainment that would have on our young people. So when they were making money off of Public Enemy and all that good stuff, they were like, whatever, we don't care what they're saying. But then when they realized what was being said that was positive, then they took an active part in buying in, like the minister said, buying into rap music, the industry aspect of it, and then to steer the message into gangster rap. So you mentioned the rappers in particular that would fit that description would be the ones who came after NWA, because NWA didn't start off as a gangster rap outfit. They actually started off with Straight Outta Compton and F the Police. They were actually like a protest type of group.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But because of the gangster element, that part was blown way out of proportion. So it no longer became about edutainment. It became all about gangster rap and the, calling our women out of their name, drugs and violence, sex, all that stuff became the order of the day. So you started to see lack of support for all of the other entertainers that I mentioned earlier that were about positivity. So I do believe, yes, that because of that meeting that the minister mentioned outside of Los Angeles, where the record executives met with the owners of private prisons, and they have a contract with state governments, keep the prisons 90% full. Yes, absolutely. Rap had a role to play. I think, like the minister said, rappers were unwitting co-conspirators in our own self-destruction. They didn't know anything about that meeting, but the record company executives did. If you notice, things started to sound the same. It used to be a variety. You could have Will Smith, Fresh Prince over here. You could have, Heavy D and the Boys over here. You can go down to, if you want to get a little nasty or whatever, then you can go back up and and deal with Public Enemy, and you had the positive sisters like Queen Latifah, MC Light, all that. You had a variety. You could, you could choose whatever you want. Then eventually it became a one-note industry.
Yes.
Everything sounded the same. And it has continued up until today where everything sounds exactly the same. So yes, to make a long story short, and answer the question, yes, absolutely. Certain rappers had a part to play in our destruction. I think the ones who really, out of lack of knowledge and ignorance, just want to sign a contract. And what did they get with their contract is basically a sweatsuit and a pack of cigarettes. And some old English or something, and that's all they get in that deal. And they get a little fame and notoriety, and that's it. But they end up being broke and having no power at the end of the day. They call that a 360 deal.
Right.
So
going right back where you started.
That's right. You start from zero, you go up and come right back down to zero.
Right.
And one thing that's important is the discussion of the private prisons. If you have a private prison, that's a prison that's run by a corporation. It's not run by the government. And corporations are required by law to make money for their investors, their shareholders. So if you have a prison that's operated by a private company and they have to make money, what is the money? What is the product?
Right.
It's the population.
Yep.
Got to keep it full if you want to make that money. And that's why the minister mentioned, now it may not have been in the documentary, but we have the full, in your DVD, Brother Kwami.
Yes.
You actually have a selection. You have the documentary, but you have a second selection where you have the full uncut interview with the minister.
Yes.
And in that full uncut interview, he talks about stop and frisk and goes into a deeper way of how stop and frisk now is used to help fill up the prison population. And right now, okay, everybody's having fun, smoking weed, it's legalized and all that good stuff. But at a certain point, anytime they can flip the switch and say, arrest anybody, which means Black people, young Black men especially, that smells like weed, and throw them in prison. When that switch is flipped, here we go. Let's fill the prison population back up again because it's getting low. Let's bring it back.
Anastasia, what's your next question? You said you had a couple of them.
All right, my next question is, why do the government minimize the Million Man March? Is it because they want our Black brothers and sisters to stay asleep?
Do you want to answer that? No? Okay. Well,
He's the speaker in the family.
I'm not a speaker.
I'm just the artist.
She's the one that
I hear you on that. I got that same type of marriage.
She gives me the blueprint and I execute her blueprint. That's
Yep.
That's my words. But to answer your question, I think you answered it. Yes, absolutely. They want us to stay asleep because when we wake up and start doing something for ourselves outside of their constructs, then it shows how weak they are in comparison to us. Right. So about it, if they admit it, because there was a National Park Service that said it was 400,000 people. And we know that was a lie, right? Right. There are events on the mall that were much smaller than ours and had bigger numbers compared, if you ask them. So we didn't depend on the Park Service to do the count for us. We ended up, getting independent agencies to verify the numbers. I think Boston University did a count where they said it could have been between 800,000 to 1.1 or 1.3 million or something like that. So that was, to us, a little more accurate. But the point I'm making to your question is that they want to control the narrative. The main difference between the Million Man March and any other march that took place, there was nobody financing this march except us. Like the minister said, Michael Jackson gave the most money. The minister himself gave money. We gave money because I was one of the brothers that went out in the street. A clipboard and a petition where people would sign saying they're in support of the Million Man March, and then we'd ask them to donate whatever God put on their heart. And so we were collecting change, we were collecting $1 here and there, $5, $10, and we put all that together to finance the march. So if the government could not control how the march was put on, they couldn't control the money, they couldn't control the speakers, they couldn't control anything. Them trying to control the numbers was their weak attempt at trying to, pull the wool over our eyes, us in darkness, or sleep, as you said. So they gotta control it. If they can't control it, then they have a real problem on their hands.
Right.
So we wake up like you're saying. If we really do wake up like we have a potential to do, then we'll be in heaven not just one day, but every day
for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
I do want to say, to speak on my husband's point about controlling the narrative, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do the Million Man March documentary. I mean, it's a little off of what your question was, but a little bit on it, because if we Black people, members of the Nation of Islam, we do the documentary, we can control the narrative, we can give the truth of how many people were there, who actually called for the Million Man March. Sometimes people talk about the Million Man March and don't even mention Minister Farrakhan, who called the Million Man March in the first place. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do the documentary. Sister Ava Muhammad, who is the national spokesperson who was featured in the documentary, when we interviewed her, she said that the further we get away from the Million Man March, as far as like the date and stuff, eventually it's going to be a time when none of the people who were there will be alive. And so people have to depend on what's written down, what's recorded to, give the facts of what happened that day. So that's why we want to do the documentary, and like you say, to wake us up.
Right.
On my way there, I was actually part of a bus caravan that came from Arkansas. And for those of you that know about driving from Richmond, Virginia to Washington, D.C., about a midpoint between these two cities is, what is it called? Henrico County, where Six Flags is located. And I remember when we drove, we stopped in Richmond and we started driving. And as soon as we passed Six Flags, traffic stopped on the freeway. And I was asleep. And when I was awoken, they woke me up. And all you saw in every single lane going towards DC was buses. It was buses. And Six Flags is what? It's about 45 minutes away from DC, isn't it?
It's about, on 395.
Yeah. So 45 minutes away, the traffic is packed with buses going to the Million Man March. So I remember one of the elders on the bus, he said, the giant has awakened. I remember him saying that, the giant has awakened, because that right there told us this is vitally important. This movement that the minister Louis Farrakhan called is so important, and it was so important that 200. I'm not 200, but 2 million. I honestly believe there was over 2 million people there. I was there. I was on stage with a press pass, and I was able to see how far back it went. And it didn't just go in the mall. The streets on both sides of the mall were all full as well. So
That's right.
It was over 2 million people there, 2 million brothers. And for America to see that possibility, they immediately had to push it under the rug. Like you're saying, Brother Anthony, they had to find some way to discount it. Oh, it was just 400,000. When I heard that, I'm like, really? Really? And the thing that I heard the next day, which was so profound as well, was there was a report in the Washington Post talking about the Metropolitan Police Department on October 16th, 1995. They did not receive one 911 call.
That's true.
During that entire 24-hour period. You got
Wow.
2 million brothers that America is told that we are vile, we are thugs, we're monsters. But there's 2 million of us in the same location and not one crime was committed. So Anastasia, that's how powerful that was. And that's why they have to discount it.
That's right.
And I feel that's why it's important for us to get this documentary in front of our youth.
Yes.
You know, it's unfortunately, we have people who never heard of the Million Man March, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to keep the story alive. We have to keep that spirit alive and let our youth know that it is possible. You know, they don't think that Black people can unite, especially Black men. They don't think to love each other, you know, in the right way. So,
and to your point about the number of people on the mall, the number was so great that the U.S. Capitol Police lost control of the mall. You know, because the National Mall is federal land that is controlled by the U.S. Capitol Police. There was an area in front of the Capitol steps where the minister spoke that the Capitol Police wanted the men pushed back a certain distance away from the steps, but the Capitol Police couldn't control the crowd. They asked the chief of police of the U.S. Capitol, asked our Supreme Captain, who was featured in the documentary, Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad. He was a Supreme Captain at the time. The chief of police for the Capitol, U.S. Capitol Police, asked him, as the Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, to help move the crowd back. And so Brother Sharif was like, no problem. So he ordered a number of FOI to come in a rank and get in between the brothers on the mall and the steps, and those brothers politely asked the brothers to move back, and the brothers moved back without any problem. So the point I'm making though is that the U.S. government had no control at all on that day. It was all controlled in-house by Black men. It was incredible. So at the end of all of that, the U.S. Capitol Police Chief turned to our Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam and saluted him and said,
wow.
He said, you got it.
Wow, that's powerful.
You know, so
that's very powerful.
So again, that's a sign of all of us in unity doing what we're supposed to do. There's nothing we can't do. Nothing is impossible for us to do.
Now, I have another question about the money situation. Why was people worried about the money instead of the message behind the Million Man March?
that's a good question.
Well, it's like this. If you can't control it, then you try to find a way to discredit it. Right? You can't control it. What are you going to believe? You're going to believe the National Park Service that says 400,000, or are you going to believe your lying eyes that says 2 million? Right? So you can't control that. So what can we do now to discredit the movement? Well, let's say that the Nation of Islam, Mr. Farrakhan in particular, is stealing the money. The minister had already anticipated there was going to be an issue raised about the money. That's why he called for 3 independent CPA firms to come in and audit the entire operation, because he knew.
That was a really good call there.
Yeah, he knew that somebody who's petty, somebody who's jealous, somebody who's envious of what able to accomplish, that's going to try and tear it down. So let's go ahead and put it out there before, and that audit is still up. The website is still there. Anybody can visit the website and look at the entire audit. What we showed in the documentary is just a summary of the entire money that was collected. So it ended up being about $66,000 that was owed after the fact. And one thing I want to mention is that after we did the documentary, we were able to go back and visit the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and give him a copy of the DVD. We gave him 2 copies of the DVD. And we gave him one that was still in plastic, and the other one was open so he could see the inside of it. And I was explaining to him, like I was explaining to you, Brother Kwami, about the insert, about the pledge being on one side and the audit being on the other side. And I was explaining to him the reason why we have the audit in there is because people keep asking, what happened to the money? Usually it's people who just don't like us that ask questions. What happened to the money? You know, it's the same ones who ask about the money are the same ones who ask us in the Nation of Islam, didn't y'all kill Malcolm X? And it's been proven time and time again the Nation of Islam didn't kill Malcolm X. But at the same time, we have to keep explaining it over and over again. So people ask us about the money. What happened to the money? We got to keep explaining over and over again that there was no money. Like Sister Ava said, there was the money. But when I explained this to the minister, I said, you know, we put this in here because people keep asking us about the money. And we wanted to show them that it was a debt at the end. There was no profit. There was no payoff at the end. Nobody got paid after the fact. And so the minister said to me, he said, who paid the debt, brother? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know. I knew there was a debt, but I didn't know how the debt, what happened with the debt, right? And he said, Ms. Farrakhan said, I paid the debt, brother. So not only was there no profit at the end, not only was there debt at the end, the minister came out of his own pocket and paid that debt after the Million Man March.
And that was on top of the $250,000 that he put up front.
Exactly.
Wow.
And you know what tripped me out when people, when they say what happened to the money, and I say, well, how much money did you give? They say $2. I go, seriously, you worried about the $2 you gave?
I need to
lose $2 during the week.
But to me, it's not about the money. It's about the message that he's trying to give to our people, for us to unite, for us to come together, to be one, for us to be more powerful in a whole. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
Nobody is getting that message.
Right.
Why worry about the money when we have a greater cause at hand?
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, ma'am.
Indeed. When you talk about the money, the vision that I really loved about being there, and I'm actually almost, oh my gosh. I remember when the call was given for free will donation during the march, and everybody tried to figure out how we going to do this. And people just said, just pass it forward. Right. And for the next hour, there was like 10s, 20s, and people would just pass it to you and you just pass it forward for the next hour. That was so freaking amazing to see that happening.
Yep. Yeah, because
you know what I'm talking about, brother.
Yeah, because like the message said,
I was so speechless.
Right, because there was no room. It was literally shoulder to shoulder.
Yes.
On the whole mall. And not only did money have to be passed like that, if anybody needed to go to the porta potties, the porta johns, there were brothers were literally getting passed over the crowd.
Yes, I saw that too.
That's how tight we were. You know, and the thing about it was there was no way to collect all the money that was being passed either. You know, we couldn't get the receptacles to the people. So like you said, money's been passed, boxes were being passed over the crowd to the money and then brought back. And the beauty of it is that nobody said, oh man, look at this money, let me just hold on to it. Everybody was in the same spirit.
Yes.
Nobody was being selfish at all. It was incredible.
Right.
In the chat, we have a question. It says, can Brother Anthony share about the production of the film?
That's a pretty broad question. I would say, well, first of all, let me share this. That my wife said it earlier, Sister Angela said it earlier. This was a labor of love when we did this. The motivation behind this was that we understood that nobody was going to tell our story for us and tell it right. The only way it was going to be told right, we felt, was for us to tell our own story. Now, we had the idea in the Ministry of Arts and Culture in DC and Vanguard Television, but we had very limited resources. You know, my wife is a graduate of Howard University. You know, she took film classes and all of that. I graduated from Duke University, and, you know, I did an independent study on hip hop culture and all of that. And I'm an IT person. So we didn't really have a lot of resources. It came down to our ministry and a bunch of people that saw the vision of what we were trying to do. And everyone that participated basically did it for free. You know, we had three different videographers that contributed to the film. We had about three different music producers that contribute to the music in the film. Because all that music is independent. It's not, you know, these are all local producers from the DC area that contribute music. And then when we actually went in to edit the film, I mean, some of it was edited. Where was Lucas Curry located? Where were we going? Wasn't that a school or something we went to edit portions of the documentary?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so some of it was done on a brother named Brother Enoch on his Apple laptop in his apartment. Another part of it was edited through a brother named Lucas, who's a videographer, and on his day job, he would allow us to come in on his day job and edit at his job. All of this that was done, was done by the grace of God, for real. I mean, you know, there was something more, a higher force that was responsible for helping to get this done. Matter of fact, the DVD itself that you have, Brother Kwami, Brother Anthony, the brother who asked the question, that's Anthony Seven Muhammad. He's being humble, but it was him, his wife, that actually designed the DVD. So the cover that you see, the actual picture on the disc itself, the insert, all of that was designed by them.
All right.
And they did that for free, basically. And we put on this. And then everything else was financed in-house. You know, we just saved some money up and put it together. So that's how the production went, basically.
Yeah, we did a few crowdfunding campaigns.
We did, yeah.
So, you know, help get the ball.
And that's where I first learned about you, is from your crowdfunding campaign.
Oh, wow.
Yep, way back when.
Wow, yes, sir.
And when we interviewed the minister, and just to give a little background on that, initially we didn't have the minister as an interview for the documentary. We were going to actually do the documentary. We're trying to get an interview with the minister, but it's just not a thing. You call the minister up, hey, brother minister, can we interview you for this? You know, it's just not that simple. There's layers and there's different things that have to happen right in order for you to get an audience with Minister Farrakhan. Nowadays, even more, it's really impossible now. He's not doing anything in any interviews now. But time when we had a small window where we were allowed to do the interview, when he came to Washington, D.C. to interview with Rock Newman. So when he came to the city, he went to WEAC Radio on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard here in DC to do an interview with Rock Newman on his radio show. So right after he did that interview on the radio show, he went to his hotel. And we were told, okay, you have 30 minutes from the point when he gets back to the hotel to do this interview with the minister. So we went to the hotel, and the crew basically was my wife, myself, Brother Anthony Seven, who we asked the question, he was there. Two videographers, one was Anthony Venuto from Howard, and another one was a brother named Mr. Joseph, who's an associate of my wife and Anthony Venuto. So we had one like real nice camera, and the two videographers like set up the whole setting in a room at the hotel. It was like a conference room. and we mic'd the minister up. It was very professional. But the final call, which is like the media arm of the Nation of Islam, the final call newspaper, they had some media people there, but they were impressed with how professional we were in making the interview happen. Mm-hmm. They were there already. They had a round table set up with a microphone. Like, we didn't have anything, because that's how limited we were. It looked like we weren't going to have anything, but we came there with the full setup. You know, they were like, "Oh wow," you know, and they had to move the stuff out the way and ask our people, like, how do you want this done? And we had to show them how we wanted it done and all that. So it worked out very well. But I'm saying that it could not have been planned that way. It had to be ordered, divinely ordered in the way it happened.
And
and it came through so well. So that is the divinity. When you look at the final product, you can tell the divinity that you speak of. Brother Anthony 7 Muhammad, you have your hand up. You want to come on in and say what you want to say?
Yes, sir. Peace and blessings, beloved.
Greetings.
I wanted to thank Brother Anthony and Sister Angela R. Muhammad for the wonderful representation that they're presenting and have always since this project. They've been up on Carnegie Mellon University campus and a number of other areas representing who I think is a Black revolutionary messiah, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in this hour. And they have an assignment, and they've been on top of what they feel, what they have to do, and I'm with them in this assignment. But I just wanted to really thank them, and I wanted to share about the production component back and behind the scenes of what it took to produce this piece, because this is a labor of love from Sister Angela and Brother Anthony. And the representation that they bring forward is right and exact for the time that we're in. The minister says we're at war, and then he had to go on the top of the mountain to sound the alarm. And we're right at that point right now, you know, with this pestilence among the community. We must sound the alarm, you know, and I just want to thank Brother Anthony and Sister Angela again for doing their work. And I'm honored to be a part of their team.
All right, man. I'm honored to be a part of this hall right here. Let me tell you how I got here. Back in, I think it was like late July. Back in late July, I was going through my personal calendar, and I was going through my personal calendar because my wife wanted me to go ahead and start scheduling our vacation. And we normally do vacation during our birthday week. I'm November 7th, she's November 8th. So as I'm turning my calendar, I get to October and I immediately looked at the 16th and I'm like, wait a minute, it's 25, it's been 25 years. And I perked up and I immediately said, what can we do for the 25th anniversary? There has to be some type of really big celebration, but since we're in a COVID-19 era, it has to be something online. So I immediately got out my phone and I tweeted to Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I said, hey, the 25th anniversary is coming up. What are we doing and how can I be a part of it? And no lies, Sister Angela, within 24 hours, I got a tweet back telling me to contact you.
Wow.
Praise the Lord.
Remember, I sent you that email. I sent you that email, and then that's when we started talking about this screening that we're doing today and then on the 16th.
Yeah, I think you sparked something there, because it seemed like there's a flood of activity after because I think you're the first one that we heard of actually doing a program for the anniversary of Millionaire March. And this week has been a flood of other activities that have started to happen. But I think you were one of the first ones to actually come out with something, and we were very appreciative to know that somebody was actually trying to plan something, in Arkansas of all places, right?
Yes, indeed. Especially since Bill Clinton ran out of town when we came.
Right. That's right.
Anastasia, did you get all your questions asked that you wanted to ask?
I just have one more. With this one, on October 16, 1995, why is the Million Man March? Well, not 19, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say why October 16 isn't a holiday for the Million Man March for us.
Well, that's an excellent question. And I will first say that it is a holiday for those of us who took to heart what was said, the message you mentioned earlier. Those of us who internalize that message, it's automatically a holiday. I've been at my job a long time ago that I was not going into work on October 16th. Seven, who also took it to heart. He said he took off a whole week. He took a whole week off. So there are those of us who it is a holiday for us. It's a holy day for us. Now, to answer the broader part of that, though, is why isn't it a holiday or holy day for the Black community in general? I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, where those of us who have taken it to heart, we have to bear some responsibility, not demanding that this be a holy day for all of us in the Black community. So for me, my family and my immediate family and those around me, they know that's what it's about. But how many other people don't know? And there are whole new generations of younger people that don't know the significance of what took place on October 16th, 1995. The documentary spells it out very well, and then what was mentioned in the documentary, all those leaders, Jesse Jackson was one of them, Reverend Willie Wilson and Al Sharpton, Professor Stallings, and all these religious leaders, they did come together at Rankin Chapel at Howard University. It was an ecumenical service. They all signed this document saying it is now a holy day. Most of them are not promoting it as a holy day anymore. So, there's a ball that was dropped when it came to demanding that it be a holy day for all of us.
Brother Anthony, is that document that they signed, is that available anywhere?
I believe it is. I'm not sure who has it, but I remember seeing it. I remember seeing the document and seeing the signatures on it. So it must be somewhere we can get a hold of it. That's an excellent archival piece that needs to be.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. With me being a history type guy, I'm actually a member of the Arkansas Historical Association.
Okay.
And so the first thing that came to my mind is that document needs to be preserved.
Well, one quick thing, I actually work for the American Alliance of Museums.
All right.
So I'm sure your historical society has at some point has some connection to the organization I work for.
Yes, indeed.
So maybe we can connect on that level as well. But that's something I definitely want to look for and find out if that document still exists and where is it. See if we can bring it back.
Yes, indeed. One question that I have is, after the Million Man March, we had the Million Woman March, the Million Family March. So there was some intent to kind of, I don't know if the intent was to try to relive what happened in 1995, or what those two other marches were all about. But we do look at them as being in the universe of the Million Man March. Can either of you speak on what the Million Woman March or the Million Family March did and how it correlates to the Million Man March?
Sure. Well, you sure? All right. I make your permission first. But in 1997, that's when we had the Million Woman March in Philadelphia. And there was a sister who, Phile, I want to say her name properly, Phile Chinasu. She was the one who was the director of that event. And she wanted to show support actually for the Million Man March in 1995, but wanted the women to have that day to, kind of play off of what happened in 95. And so she did that in Philly. And we also, meaning members of the Nation of Islam, actually helped to secure that event. And there were some sisters from the nation that spoke. Mother Tanetta Muhammad, Sister Ava Muhammad, and some others actually spoke at that event. My wife went to Philly for that. Do you want to describe the experience of being there?
Well, I mean, it was awesome. It's probably similar to the feelings that the brothers had at the Million Man March. And also, too, the Million Woman March was a march to empower Black women, to address the needs of Black women, with the domestic violence, sexual abuse, and all of that. And that was all a part of the Million Woman March as well. Yeah,
I remember Jada Pinkett spoke there, right?
Yes, Jada Pinkett spoke. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Sister Soldier.
Sister Soldier, yeah.
Was there.
I don't know if you know Sister Anastasia. Is your name Anastasia? I don't know if you're familiar with Sister Soldier.
No, I'm not quite.
But you should look her up.
Yeah.
Sister, okay. I think she spells it Sista, and the last second word is Souljah. So YouTube, look her up on YouTube and watch her videos. And
I will do. Thank you.
And she's connected to Public Enemy.
Anastasia, since you've been such a really wonderful surprise guest panelist, if you inbox me or shoot me an email, your address, I will send you a copy of, I think she has 2, possibly 3 novels that she authored. Yes. I will send them all to you.
Really? Oh my God, I would love that. I would love that. Yes.
Yeah, she was definitely a powerful speaker, and she was connected to Public Enemy as well. So, So and just to kind of go back to your point there, brother Kwami. So, the 1997 Million Woman March, and then there was the 2000 Million Family March. And the Million Family March was, just like the name implies, it was for the men to come back and to bring their families, bring their wives, their children, and to kind of focus on the Black family. There was actually a partnership, in a sense, with Reverend Sun Myung Moon, who kind of helped convene it. And he donated quite a bit to make that event happen. And he officiated a large marriage ceremony. Folks got married and renewed their vows also on that day at the Million Family March. So that was 2000. And then in 2005, we had the Millions More movement. And the Millions More movement was a reconvening of a lot of the leadership from the 95 Million Man March to kind of reinvigorate the spirit of the Million Man March, and to reintroduce the national agenda that I mentioned earlier, with the 9 ministries that the minister had introduced, which of course were part of the Ministry of Arts and Culture. So the Millions More movement was for us to solidify those ministries and to make it more of a reality. So that came out of what was talked about in the documentary about the local organizing committees.
Yes.
So the local organizing committees are what was used to make the march happen. But then the local organizing committees were to keep going after the Million Man March. And the Millions More movement was to help turn those local organizing committees into ministries, or to have ministries come out of those committees.
Brother Anthony, on that point, can you go back and speak on the document called the National Agenda that you spoke on before the film? Because you just talked about the 9 ministries, and I think it's vital that we talk about that. And I just purchased a copy. It's only $5 on the NOI's website.
Yes. And the national, it's interesting because Ms. Farrakhan is a very humble person. And if you saw in the documentary where he said that Barack Obama, who was a community organizer at the time, he came to the Million Man March and he said it was great, but it could have been organized better, right? And the minister said he wasn't wrong, but of course, Barack Obama wasn't in the mix at the time and all that good stuff. But the national agenda is that organizational thrust that Barack Obama said, could have been organized better. But everything it could have been organized better was put into the national agenda. Mm-hmm. So when you read the national agenda, it reads like a platform for us to establish our own government. That's exactly what the national agenda is about. It's almost like, and it really has a political aspect to it as well, because, our vote gets taken for granted by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They really don't care about us anyway. So either way, when you deal with both parties, we don't have a national agenda that we present as Black people to either party or to a third party or any other force out there on the political front. That national agenda helps to lay out the base of what we want as a people. And really, the national agenda comes out of another book by Mr. Farrakhan called A Torchlight for America.
Yes.
So if you ever get a chance to get that book, he gives America points to show how America can come out of the problems that she has. So that national agenda speaks to our problems as Black people and how we can come out of it and form a nation for ourselves.
That's wonderful. With this being the summer of uprising, where there have been uprisings all over the world, and I think Sister Angela, you spoke on Brother Floyd, excuse me,
George Floyd.
Yeah, I just had to pause. Today is his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to pause there for a second. He would have been 47 years old today.
Yes, sir.
All right. With his death, his murder, with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, with the murder of Breonna Taylor, and all of the other murders that have gone on, I'm just saying, just this year, since we've been on lockdown, there was a similar murder that was very similar to what happened to George Floyd here in Conway, Arkansas, but it never made the national news. But it was a similar type situation. But with that going on, now more than ever is our calling, our responsibility to pull out that national agenda and let's dust it off and let's put some action and some energy towards it. And Brother Anthony, I'm just asking you, what can we do? Because this film gets the information out and it revives the narrative as it was stated earlier. But now that we have the narrative revived, we need some action steps, some next steps. And what do we need to do to pull that national agenda off the shelf and start actualizing it?
Well, I would say, coming from my perspective, the number one thing that we can look at that can make the national agenda a reality, we're always taught the first thing that we got to get is some land. We got to get some land because we can have, a platform, we can have an agenda item or agenda items. We can have an agenda, but if we don't have actual land and territory that we can call our own, someone can always come and disrupt and destroy what we brought together in the way of unity. I mean, when you mentioned George Floyd, yeah, that's a powerful thing to think about, because it's like history repeating itself. This is not new. George Floyd is probably what happened to him is probably the most vivid and the most graphic expression of what was already happening to us. But it was the first time where you could see it live, to see a police officer, a white police officer, just with that look on his face of almost, he was thrilled. It was like enjoyed every minute, every moment of taking our brother's life. And Mr. Farrakhan put it this way. He said, if anger had been stirred up in George Floyd, he said none of those cops would have been able to hold him down. He was a big brother. He was a big, muscular brother, So I'm saying that to say that the next step is separation. I mean, I got to say it straight. The white people, especially those white people who are in authority and in power, which are really the only ones that matter at this point, because there are a bunch of white people who may be nice people and all of that, but they seem to be powerless to stop what their brothers are doing that are in authority. But they have proven over and over again that they are disagreeable to live with. We can't continue to live with them. If we do, we're going to end up being destroyed. So we have to find ways to separate. And it doesn't have to be necessarily we all just pack up and move to a whole nother area right away. I'm talking about separate, starting with our thinking, pooling our resources. We haven't tried that yet. We're already separated because Black people live amongst Black people, and white people live amongst white people. Asians live amongst their own people. I mean, it's already a separation there, but we don't own where we live. So the next step, let's start buying up where we live, maybe block by block. Start with one block, let's buy it. Let's pool our resources and buy the next block. Let's set up businesses in our neighborhoods that we can own and we can support, instead of allowing others who don't care nothing about us come in and set up shop, and they wax rich off of us and we suffer. So there's layers to it. I say we start with, in our own neighborhoods, let's start pooling our resources and start buying up where we live, first of all. And then after that, let's target farmland that we can unify together and buy to help feed our people. So in the chat, I had already shared where folks can watch the documentary later on if they want to on Quality TV. But there's another website that I'm sharing in the chat. It's called economicblueprint.org. And that illustrates exactly what I'm talking about as far as pooling our resources to purchase some land that we can call our own. We can grow our own food, do all the things we need to do to start building a land or nation of our own. And so that website lays it all out. I believe that's the next step. Separation and doing something for ourselves.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's about time for us to do that. I want to.
Quick question.
Please go ahead.
For you, Brother Kwame, I'd like to know, what did you take away from the Millionaire March, and how did it change your life?
What did I take away from the Million Man March, and how did it change my life? The main thing that I took away from was the possibility of us all being on one accord. When we talk about the Million Man March, a lot of people don't realize that the Million Man March is actually the nickname. It was actually the Day of Atonement.
Right.
At one men. So we demonstrated being at one on the same accord of the same mind. And we also quietly, it was a quiet demonstration of the awesome power, collective power that we have. We have the power to shut down the federal government.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
You said that, Brother Anthony, earlier. We have the power to shut down the federal government and send the president out of there
That's right.
and the Congress out of there. And so what I took away from that is, first, it was a tearful day for me. I cried tears of joy throughout the day. I met so many brothers. There's brothers that I met at that march that I'm still in contact with today. And it was humbleness. I was very humble, and I came away from there a different person, a different man. Last night I watched Get on the Bus just to watch it again, because that movie by Spike Lee was so freaking accurate. It was so freaking representative of what I actually experienced. I remember the first time I watched it, I'm like, did he have hidden cameras on the bus that we were on? What I took away from it is the possibility that we have. And when you talk about that land, Brother Anthony, the power, if we just got on one accord, if we were at one with each other, we could turn around and we could end these George Floyds and these Ahmaud Arbery's. We could end it right away. We just have to be on the same accord. We have to be at one.
Yes, sir. And just one quick point. That's where my name came from, Atone. It came from the Millionaire March.
All right.
You mentioned at one meant.
Yes.
If you break it down another way, A-tone meant, right? So A-tone references the concert A, that is 440 vibrations per second that instruments tune up to. So in the the orchestra, when they were tuning up the instruments, you hear all this noise. There was an A that was sounded. The concert A is sounded, and then everybody tunes the instrument up to that concert A.
Wow.
140 vibrations per second. And the 440 actually, to us, represents our sojourn here in North America of being 440 years under this wicked slave master, starting in 1555. And if you add 1555, add 440 to that, it's 1995.
I'm glad you said 1555, because every time I hear this 1619, I'm like, what books are you reading?
All right. That's actually a point. That's actually a point, because they keep saying 1619, but I'm here in DC. And we're taught that we were brought here in 1555. I said, well, let me go check the Library of Congress. I used to work there. I went to the Library of Congress, went down to the resource reading room, and found a book that actually said 1555.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So it's real. It actually was 1555 when we were first brought as slaves to North America.
The question that Sister Angela just asked me, I want to ask that to you, Brother Anthony. What did you come away from the Million Man March with?
Wow. I mean, the short answer is everything. Everything came away for me from the Million Man March. It was a culmination of so many things. So I was a young, new husband, new father going to the Million Man March. I was 25 years old. 25, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually I was 26 at the Million Man March, because we had just got married the year before, 1994. And our son was born.
I was 25 too.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned November is your birthday. Our son's birthday is November 5th.
All right.
So
Good people.
I'm just, and back then we were just like, we were energetic. You know what I'm saying? We could do anything back then. It was nothing we couldn't do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Older now, a little wiser, and we got to pace ourselves a little bit. But back then it was like I could stay up all night and be no problem. All week, no sleep. So going there, and I'll tell this little story real quick about what happened when I went there. I was, of course, like I am now, a member of the Nation of Islam. So I had an assignment. It was a work day for me. Mm-hmm. We had to put the event on. My assignment was to secure the mayors from St. Louis and East St. Louis. And of course, in the news, St. Louis is known more for what happened with Mike Brown. Mm-hmm. One of our brothers that was killed by the police, Mike Brown in St. Louis. Well, if you go back and look at a lot of what happened in St. Louis around the time of Mike Brown, there's a brother who was one of the main persons kind of leading the protests. And he had like chains around his neck with 2 stuffed animals, 2 stuffed dogs, and he had like a police cap on, like a police hat on.
Yes.
And you saw him in the protests all the time. His name is Anthony Shahidi.
Yes, we screened a documentary on that, and he was one of the prominent characters in the documentary.
Great. So Anthony Shahidi is. He's very active. Anthony Shahidi was sent to Washington, D.C. by Minister Farrakhan to help inspire young men in the streets to come to the Million Man March. Mm. So he came with another brother named Sultan Muhammad. And so the assignment was for Anthony Shahidi and Sultan Muhammad to go out and get these young brothers. So I, as a member of the nation, was assigned to work with Anthony Shahidi and Sultan Muhammad. And when the Million Man March came up, the mayor from St. Louis and the mayor from East St. Louis, Mayor Bush and Mayor Bosley, they came to DC, and Anthony Shahidi was with them. So of course, if Anthony Shahidi was with them, I was with them. So my job became to escort these 2 mayors from the hotel in Northwest DC down to the National Mall, because they had to go on stage and speak. I had no idea how I was gonna get that done. I was like, what in the world? How am I supposed to do this? All I had was my 94 Nissan Sentra, 4-door car. And so we try to organize it. We get it together. I'm the lead car. Behind me was a limousine with 1 mayor. Then there's another limousine with another mayor. The mayors got to do it big. And then behind the 2 limousines was a taxi cab filled with brothers of St. Louis. Mm. So I'm leading these brothers down from Northwest DC to the Capitol. We're driving down Pennsylvania Avenue, getting closer to the Capitol, but I'm not sure how to get them to the Capitol building as far as getting like into the Capitol building, like in the parking lot. So it just so happens that we pull up behind our entourage, or our caravan pulls up behind a police cruiser. And the brother that was sitting next to me was a sheriff from St. Louis. He said, look, when we get to this red light, let me jump out. I'm gonna talk to the police officer, see if he can help us out. I said, okay. So he jumps out of the car. He runs up to the police officer, talks to him real quick, jumps back in the car. The police officer turns on his lights and escorts us to the Capitol building. It was, we couldn't have planned it any better. So he took us all the way to the back of the Capitol building, into the parking lot. We had parking spaces and everything. Then we went up into the Capitol building, into the green room where the Honorable Minister Farrakhan was. Mm. And we were with them, and we were with those 2 mayors until they spoke. And then we left from there. But what I got out of all that was, I went down the same steps that the minister said he went down. Mm-hmm. And I saw, like you said, you were a member of the press, but I came down as a member of that security team for the mayors and saw all those brothers. It was, like you said, the tears are flowing. It waterworks was on at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I knew at that moment that we were going to go to the next level at some point, because that was incredible. If we could do that, there's nothing we can't do. So that's what I took away from it. It was like the thought of anything being impossible was out the window after that. It was over with.
Indeed, indeed. What we're going to be doing on the 16th on Friday is we have gotten the entire 14 hours of the Million Man March from C-SPAN. And over the next couple of days, I'm going to be cutting and splicing, and I'm going to cut it down because we want to start showing it at 8 o'clock in the morning Central Standard Time, which would be 9 o'clock your time. And we want to stop it by 5 o'clock because you guys will be doing a second screening of the Million Man March, the Untold Story. So I want to make sure that everybody that's watching the actual footage will stop watching it and then jump on to the Zoom call to participate in that. So go ahead and tell us what's going on the 16th. Okay.
Well, there's a lot of things going on throughout the weekend, from starting tonight, which of course your program is really the first thing that we
okay.
And then all the way through Sunday. So our event is Friday, October 16th at 5 p.m. What I'll do is I'll share the link to our Facebook page, because we actually have been blessed to manage the Million Man March Facebook page, the Million Man March Twitter page as well. And so we're doing a Zoom meeting, like you were saying, and we're going to live stream on YouTube exactly the way you're doing it now. So this actually, the way this turned out was actually perfect.
Yeah.
Difficulties in the beginning and so forth. This actually worked out very well because it kind of is like a dry run for us to do this summer thing. So let me pull this up real quick.
Will you be, in addition to the Zoom, be simulcasting it on YouTube?
Yes.
Great, great.
So I'm going to pull up the actual link. So the way the program is going to go down is that we're going to start off with a discussion in the beginning of exactly how we were able to produce a documentary. And then we're going to show some behind the scenes pictures and footage.
Great.
The minister before we did the interview, because you saw the edited version of, the minister's interview, but there were some very good things that he said before the interview started that we're going to show, and some pictures as well from that. Right. And then we're going to show the documentary, and then we're going to do the same thing at the end. We're going to show some footage after the interview that's unseen, no one's ever seen before. And we're going to do a question and answer as well on the documentary and the Million Man March, similar to what you just did just now.
Right.
So let me pull this up. This is the link to the that you can access the Facebook page. That's actually the Twitter page, and I can pull up the Facebook page.
This is the Facebook page for the Million Man March, or the Facebook page for Vanguard Television?
This is for the documentary of the event.
Okay.
For Friday. But on that Twitter page, you can access pretty much, you can see everything there as far as Vanguard Television, Quality TV, which is where the actual documentary lives. So we showed it today. We actually showed it from Quality TV.
Yes.
So all those things can be accessed. That's the Twitter page, and this is the Facebook event page. And this is, I'm going to put another link for Vanguard Television. VanguardTVN.com is where you order the documentary, the actual DVD from.
Okay. And go ahead and tell us what else is going on through Sunday. If you can go run through that to let us know.
Sure. Let me go ahead and post another link here. Okay, I'll explain this. What I'm posting now is the actual Millionaire March Twitter page that describes the events, the scheduled events for the 25th anniversary of the Millionaire March.
Okay.
Started tonight. We had discussion with Reverend Mark Thompson as a moderator, and Mark Thompson actually was the MC, the main MC for the Millionaire March back in '95.
Okay.
He's a moderator for a panel that actually is over now, went from 7 to 9. It was Dr. Ben Chavis, Dr. Eric Dyson, Hakeem Matabuti,
Wow.
Bishop Frank Reed, Zach McDaniels, and Dr. Maulana Karenga. So that was tonight. And then tomorrow evening from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. is another panel with Mark Thompson as a moderator. Dr. Ben Chavis is on the panel. Minister Ishmael Muhammad, who's the National Assistant to Minister Farrakhan. Lisa Mitchell Sanar, Zahir Ali, Stacy Muhammad, Gary Foster. Those are folks who worked as part of the headquarters leadership for the Million Man March. So in the documentary, it showed the headquarters in DC. These are the staff that were there at the headquarters. Dr. Ron Daniels, Dr. Ife Williams, who was the DC Million Man March co-chair, and Reverend Willie Wilson from DC. So that's tomorrow, 6:30, 8:30. And then on Friday, we have our documentary that's being screened from 7 to 9, but then we'll also, from 5 to 7, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. But then on the official program from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., there's a Living the Pledge panel, which I'll let you all, my wife just reminded me, I don't have to say all these names. You can watch, you look at it for yourselves. But everything's being live streamed on this program at millionmanmarch25.com is the website.
Millionmanmarch25.com.
Millionmanmarch25.com.
All right. I'll go ahead and get the word out about that as soon as we get off here.
And then, of course, the last thing is Sunday is the keynote address from the National Assistant to Minister Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, Brother Ishmael Muhammad. And he's doing the official Day of Atonement address on Sunday. And that's at NOI.org.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for being here and participating and sharing your labor of love, your creative expression of, like I said, one of the most awesome days in my life. I personally think it's one of the most awesome days in American history. And I appreciate you guys doing such an excellent job in putting this together and letting people that know, because Anastasia, you didn't, how did you learn about the Million Man March, Anastasia?
Actually, right now I just learned because I've got like a whole bunch of things going on. I'm like a big researcher fan, so right now it's like I'm shocked. Like, why didn't I know about this sooner? You know, because this is something I have to teach my kids. I have to show my kids, because Black people, we as united, we are powerful, and I want my kids to know how powerful their voice can be. So right now this is like so amazing to me, and I'm glad I joined this and I'm so blessed to be here with you guys. So this is amazing, because when I get off, I'm showing my kids this video.
Well, what I'm going to do for you is, in addition to those books from Sister Soldier, I'll go ahead and order you a copy of the DVD so that not only show your kids, but show all those young people that come in contact with your children, because it's important that your children are surrounded by children that know this knowledge as well.
Right.
And it's a wonderful keepsake too, the actual DVD, you know, something you put on your bookshelf or in your under your TV cabinet or wherever you keep things at, but it's a thing to be able to pull out and show as well.
Yeah, because it's very powerful, because you guys done a lot, and this need to be out more. This don't only need to be out more, this need to be in schools. Like kids need to learn about this, because this is something that can motivate them to let their voice be heard.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd just like to add, Sister Anastasia, she is so right that that's one of our goals, is to show the documentary, like I said before, to our young people, because in addition to what I said earlier, unfortunately, a lot of people are associating the Million Man March with the Civil Rights Movement, with the March on Washington.
I mean, it should.
Twitter,
I mean, come on now, that's what it should be aiming at.
If you go on Twitter, you'll see people saying Martin Luther King did the Million Man March. I am not lying.
It's true.
I am telling the truth.
Oh my gosh.
I am telling the truth. So once again, that's why we have to control the narrative.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this controlling of the narrative. And I will definitely jump on millionmanmarch25.com and start disseminating the information on that website on all of my social media outlets, so that people can know what's available to experience the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. Do you guys have any closing words before we shut this down?
Well, we just want to thank you, Brother Kwami, for your vision and for your efforts to bring the real, true story out about the Million Man March. Because the reason why it's untold, because there needs to be more brothers like you that's willing to go ahead and sacrifice the time and set up a platform to share the information. The one thing about the internet, everything is at our fingertips, but a lot of times when people get in front of the computer, their fingertips are looking for the wrong things, because you got to know what you're looking for when you sit down in front of a computer and surf the net. So what you're doing, it can bring direction to a lot of young people's fingertips. And like you said, Sister Anastasia, you have children. Your children are going to be the future leaders of our people. So they got to have the right knowledge in their heads. So we thank you both for bringing us on to this platform.
And I thank you guys for letting me join and let me, ask you a whole bunch of questions.
Oh, no, we love it. We love it.
I very much appreciate your time and energy. Thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed and productive night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
All right. And I do have Dr. Jesse Hargrove. He's one of the members of the Arkansas Black History Commission, and he's a professor at Philander Smith College. He just threw it in the chat, thanking you, Sister Angela, and you, Brother Anthony, for your knowledge. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
I hope the last time we see each other. And
No. Definitely keep my contact information, and as part of getting this out, I'm on board to help however I can getting this out so that the world can see it.
yes, sir.
All right,
I will be putting my Gmail inside the chat. So if you guys end up having another Zoom, I will be glad to join. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I will share on my Facebook page, because I love sharing Black knowledge and everything like that. Like the businesses that's going on in Patterson, like our Black people coming together in the community. I share all that. I'm even with the PTO and School 12. I'm president actually, so I share a lot of things on my Facebook page. So this is one of the main things I want to share, and I will be sharing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. You go ahead and throw, there it is, AnastasiaM@gmail.com. All right, you guys, good night. And thank you for everything. And you will be seeing more of me.